Welcome back to the In Chamber. I'm your host, Tom Schumann. When we think of business, the thought process often goes to the many manufacturing facilities across the Hoosier state. There are, of course, the growing number of technology and service operations that are part of the business climate. There's also the business of sports, which we have explored multiple times in the Chamber's Biz Voice magazine. And a quick point of personal privilege. Sports is where my career began many years ago as a writer for several newspapers in Illinois and Indiana. But when that business side of the equation, in this case, contract disputes, off-field battles, and more, became a much bigger story, it took some of the joy out of the game. But we have an intriguing business story to share with you today, and that's the business of music. Our guest is the new executive director of the Terre Haute Symphony Orchestra, the oldest professional orchestra in the state at 95 years. She's also the symphony's principal clarinetist, a role she has performed since 2013. She's also served as personnel manager and marketing manager for the symphony. The music you heard at the beginning of this episode, and which will feature also during a special interlude and as the close, features our guest today, as well as Timothy Stevenson, principal keyboard with the Terre Haute Symphony Orchestra, performing Johannes Brahms' Sonata in E-flat major for clarinet and piano. Samantha Johnson-Helms, also known as Sammy, welcome to the In Chamber.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We look forward to a great conversation. Sammy, you're 31 years old. I described your ongoing roles with the Terre Haute Symphony. You're nearing completion of your doctorate in music at Indiana University. How hectic, or maybe should we say how exciting, has your life been in 2020?
I think exciting is a good word to describe it, but hectic is also a good word as well. It's been interesting, particularly since we're in the middle of a pandemic right now. I am trying to finish up my doctorate. I just have the dissertation left. I'm doing a curriculum in music entrepreneurship that's geared towards graduate performance majors, and that is particularly playing right into what I'm doing with the Terre Haute Symphony Orchestra. So that's very exciting. My husband and I just moved to Terre Haute, which was, an experience when you're trying to move in the middle of a pandemic. I left a job in Bloomington at Catalent, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later. It's very exciting, and I'm mostly excited that I'm able to move into a career and to a field that's directly what I went to school for. A lot of music majors, they don't get this privilege. They don't get the privilege of working completely and full time in the music business. And it's very exciting that not only can I use my performance degree, but I can use my arts administration minor that I'm working on, and also topics from my dissertation. So I couldn't be more thankful for where I am right now.
Well, it sounds like all those pieces are certainly fitting together very well. And when you mentioned people not using their degrees in their profession, I think that's pretty widespread. Maybe more so in music and some of the other areas, but I think it's widespread across a lot of majors.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I have several friends that, they ended up at Catalent, but their degrees were in English or marketing, and they were doing project management. And it's very interesting to see how you learn different skills. Even if I went to school for music per se, there's a whole set of skills that you learn when you're in college, when you're doing a graduate degree or a doctoral degree, that apply directly to business and how to run a business, or how to be an entrepreneur, how to market, how to fundraise, all of that.
Well, Sammy, I'm going to give a little bit of an Indiana travel log here. As I understand it, you were born in Fort Wayne, you grew up in Columbus, you earned your bachelor's degree in clarinet performance from Butler in Indianapolis, of course, have had the business career and the extended education career in Bloomington, obviously been in Terre Haute, as you mentioned, just moved there. So lots of experiences throughout the state, but what first attracted you to music and to the clarinet?
So when we lived in Cleveland, Ohio, briefly, when I when I was in elementary school. They had a talent show, and I saw two girls play, two fifth graders play a clarinet duet for the talent show. And I just thought that was the absolute coolest thing. I wanted to play that instrument. I could not wait to play it. And so when I got to, we actually moved when I was in third grade. I was in third grade when I saw the talent show. And we moved to Columbus, Indiana, and they started band in sixth grade. And so I was very excited to get a hold of a clarinet. And so I think I always like to use that story when folks ask, what's the impact of music education? And isn't it amazing that I saw a clarinet duet, fifth graders, and it has inspired an entire career path for me. I would not be here if it weren't for the wonderful music education that we have in this country and in this state particularly.
Sammy, what makes the clarinet so special for you as you've continued to learn, to practice, to play, perform in so many venues? What makes that instrument so special for you?
Usually when someone chooses an instrument, it's the sound that is really, just appealing and attracts the player to it. And for me, it's the warm, beautiful, mellow sound of the clarinet. And there's a lot that would argue that it's actually the closest instrument to the human voice. And that even though we don't do vibrato necessarily in a classical style, you'll hear vibrato in a jazz or klezmer style, of course, but in a classical orchestra, we're not necessarily using vibrato like the flute, the bassoon, and the oboe in the woodwind section. I think it's the most singing quality of the instrument, and there's all different sorts of sounds and timbres that we can get from the instrument. And it's an extension of my voice. I'm a terrible singer. I cannot sing. And so it's really nice to be able to sing through the clarinet.
That's a great way to put it. Let's get to that business side of the equation. You mentioned it. You started working an internship at Cook Pharmica, which is now Catalent. That turned into a full-time position there. You worked in operational excellence. Somewhere in the spare time of working and performing and studying, you earned a Six Sigma black belt. Talk about some of those areas of business and how they've kind of helped influence or intersect a bit with your music career.
Sure. Well, the number one thing is creativity and being able to problem solve. In operational excellence, we were primarily responsible for taking processes, whether they were business or manufacturing processes, and overhauling them, making them better, making them more efficient, making them cost less. That's all that Six Sigma is about. It's about reducing variation and overall cost of a manufacturing process. And that being able to jump into a problem and identify areas of issue and be able to communicate with the folks that own that process and understand where they're coming from and understand the shortfalls that they're experiencing plays directly into what I'm doing in Terre Haute. I can't say we manufacture drugs like Catalent does, but we run into small problems every day, and it's the ability to jump in head first, fearless, and solve that issue, not get down about it, and not be afraid to ask questions if you need to. A lot of the times when I was at Catalent and I was jumping into a process that I knew nothing about, I had no training on it. And that's good from a certain perspective to have a fresh set of eyes on a process. But it's you have to be able to ask questions, and you have to be able to ask the right questions to get to the problem that you're trying to solve. There's a whole set of tools that Six Sigma preaches is not really the right word, but has for you to use. And I often use root cause analysis, and getting the 5 whys is a really popular tool, understanding, really getting to the root cause of an issue. And you have to learn how to facilitate and how to guide folks to the right question, to get them to ask the right questions, because ultimately the process owner needs to be the one that has full ownership of the new process. If somebody comes in and just says, this is how you're going to do it, it's not going to work. It's not going to stick, right? So the process owner, you have to facilitate them to really take ownership of fixing the issue, then providing training for their team, and then you're going to have a long-lasting problem that you fixed now. So those skills, learning how to work with people, learning how to problem solve, using creative strategies to do that, I use that every single day.
Yes, Sammy, one of the things that stands out to me as you describe that is the teamwork aspect too. You know, beyond the individual abilities that you and other musicians have, bringing all those talents together into one sound, as you do in an orchestra and in other types of musical performances. Talk about what goes into that teamwork, that integration of all the individual abilities.
Sure. Well, and that's what we learn in college. That's part of our degrees. That's what we spend money on to learn how to do, essentially. And yes, we do have a conductor. The Terre Haute Symphony conductor is Dr. David Bowden, and he is the one that helps keep the orchestra together, but he also helps us interpret together as well. But it's up to the musician to truly understand the balance, how loud I need to be, where I need to fit into the texture of the instruments. And it's not just watching the conductor, it's listening to my left and my right so that I can hear the horns or the bassoons or the oboes, or I'm listening all the way up to the front to the concertmaster. It's your ears are in 80 different places, and your eyes are trying to watch the conductor. It's after a while it becomes ingrained, and that's part of the training that we receive in music school and being in student orchestras is learning how to listen and learning how to blend with your group, but also follow the conductor. It's not time to be a soloist, it's time to be an ensemble member. And there's definitely a different mentality than playing chamber music or solo music and also orchestral music. And so that's part of what they teach you in music school, how to be a chamber musician, how to be a soloist, and then also how to be an orchestral musician, because they're 3 completely different roles.
Sammy, I'm interested in your approach to new opportunities. As I mentioned earlier, you did some work in personnel and marketing areas for the Terre Haute Symphony. So as those opportunities became available, are you more of, okay, I'll jump in and learn as I go and kind of benefit from the new challenge? Or are you more analytical in determining, okay, is this the right fit? Am I the right person here? Kind of, how do you approach when something like that arises?
I have to say I'm a little bit of both. My initial instinct is let's jump in, use this new opportunity to learn a new skill. But at the same time, I'm also analyzing, is this the right path? Is this the right opportunity that I want to take? And when it came to the personnel manager and the marketing manager positions, the answer was yes, this is absolutely in the direction my career wants to go. I was currently, at the time, I was working on an arts administration minor as part of my clarinet performance doctorate, and getting into the personnel manager and the marketing manager positions aligned with that perfectly. When the executive director position came as an opportunity, I did have to do a little bit more of jump in right away. I didn't give an answer right away. I needed to come home and talk with my husband because I realized we were going to need to move to Terre Haute. At the time, and he currently still is, he's working on a second bachelor's degree in cybersecurity. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to, disrupt his studies. And now he's able to do it remotely. It's actually working out great while we're here in Terre Haute. So, but initially, I am a go-getter. I like to learn on the job. I do best when I learn on the job. That's essentially how I made a career at Catalent, jumping into operational excellence and taking on Microsoft SharePoint, which is what I'm a subject matter expert in, and continuing to learn. Google is my favorite tool. I could have a degree from Google.
A degree in Google. Yes. I like that.
And if I don't know something, if I have a question, I Google it. And if I can't find it on Google, I ask. I look around and I look for somebody else that's going to know about it. So definitely, I would say I'm a go-getter.
Sammy, tell the listeners a little bit about the Terre Haute Symphony Orchestra. I mentioned 95-year history, but talk about the organization, some of the performances, the approach that you take in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are the oldest symphony, professional symphony in the state of Indiana. We are 5 years away from our 100th season, which is really exciting. We're already talking about how we can celebrate that. Each year we give 5 subscription concerts for our regular season concerts. And then we also do 1 children's concert that we call Adventures in Music. We typically do this in the spring. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we had to cancel it last year. But we are brainstorming and innovating new virtual ways to do our Adventures in Music concert this year for students so that they don't miss out on that opportunity. Our Adventures in Music concerts, we usually invite area 4th graders from Vigo County Public Schools. So that's like thousands of 4th graders that come into Tilson Auditorium on the campus of Indiana State University. And I cannot tell you what that energy is like to have thousands of 4th graders in an auditorium. It's unreal. And they are so excited. The very first piece that we always play on this concert is Star Wars. And they light up, and you can just hear the buzz of excitement when they hear that, when they hear the horns open Star Wars. So
you've got the audience in your hands immediately.
Oh, absolutely. And during that concert, each instrument gives a demonstration, and we have fun with it. Our bass player, our principal bass player, Brian McAnally, typically plays Jaws. He'll play the 2 notes from Jaws, and the kids love it. They just think it's hilarious. We had a trumpet player play Baby Shark once, and they just eat that up. We have a 20 to 25 person board as well for our symphony orchestra. And in our office, we have me, and then we have an office manager, and we have an office assistant as well. And then we have our artistic director, our conductor, Dr. David Bowden. So small office management. Typically, our roster has between 60 and 70 musicians on it. Right now, since we're in the middle of the pandemic, our musicians typically are a lot of IU students, or students from Champaign, or students from Cincinnati, or students from Terre Haute, and they move on. So we do have quite a bit of turnover in some of the string sections, but that's pretty normal for a regional orchestra. This year we did not do our normal audition cycle. So we have a much smaller orchestra right now, which is beneficial for us because this year we're doing a lot of smaller ensemble work so that we can socially distance the musicians on stage. And it's working out well so far. We have our next concert on November 7th, which I'm very excited about. Yeah.
Well, excellent. And I haven't even touched on some of the other performance opportunities you've done throughout the years. I understand you also performed regularly with the Columbus Philharmonic. You've been part of an award-winning quartet. Talk about those a little bit, the quartet, and what opportunities have been provided as a result of that experience.
Absolutely. So I love playing with the Columbus, Indiana Philharmonic because that's my hometown orchestra, and I grew up watching them, and I grew up playing in a side-by-side with them, and my teacher was the principal clarinet of the Columbus, Indiana Philharmonic, so it's just kind of neat to have stepped into his shoes now. And they have, I love playing with them because David also, Dr. Bowden also conducts the Columbus, Indiana Philharmonic. So the schedules with the Terre Haute Symphony do not conflict. And he is a wonderful programmer. He programs fantastic music that not only do the audience love, but the musicians love to play as well. So it's been a treat to be able to play some of the major repertoire in the orchestral directory. Novocaine, my clarinet quartet, we started our group in 2013, and it's been an adventure. All four of us are doctoral students. One of us has finished. He's now Dr. Keith Northover. And two of us are all but dissertation, so we are candidates for the degree. And then the other one, Kylie Stoltz, she's teaching up at Purdue Fort Wayne right now, and so she's in the exam stage of her doctorate. The fourth member is Eric Franklin. He's actually the founder of the group, co-founder, I suppose. I was there too, but
So you've been through lots of experiences together, all four of you, both performing and educationally.
Yes, absolutely. We used to do concerts in Bloomington at the Ivy Tech Waldron Art Gallery. Most recently, we performed at the International Clarinet Association Clarinet Fest, which was in Knoxville, Tennessee this past summer. It's a real privilege to be invited, and we were excited to be invited to perform. We performed Keith's arrangement of Ravel's Les Tombeaux de Couperin. And we've won a few competitions. Our very first competition, we went to the Chicago Clarinet Ensemble's yearly competition, and we were just ecstatic that we performed so well. We did arrangements of our own arrangements, which meant even more, that we were not doing, clarinet quartet music. Clarinet quartet is sometimes considered a teaching ensemble, and we're trying to really raise that level. We use 4 different types of clarinets, kind of like a saxophone quartet or even a string quartet. And we're trying to raise the artistic value of the clarinet quartet. And we've, we were going to do the women's music conference this past March, which unfortunately had to be canceled due to the pandemic. And they were looking into doing it virtually in October, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. So it's gotten a little harder as we've gotten older, because all 4 of us have ventured out into, our own careers. Keith taught at University of Florida for a year. Kylie's in Fort Wayne teaching. Eric is in Baltimore. He was part of the United States Army Field Band for 4 years and now teaches at Towson University out there. And he just got a job with Peabody as part of their preparatory program. So all 4 of us have exciting, diverse careers, and we're lucky if we can get together once a year to do some kind of conference or make some videos or do a competition. So as we get older, it's gotten a little harder.
So Sammy, as I think has become evident through our conversation here, for you personally, with the performing, with the management role now, with your education, with family, my simple question: how do you balance it all? And I mean that because it's so important. For people may not face the same situation you are, but everyone's balancing to some aspect. What are some of your keys to how you make it all work together?
It is hard, and that's one thing that Catalent puts a lot of emphasis on, is work-life balance, and I've really taken that to heart as I've moved on. I schedule my downtime. I kid you not. I come home and I decide these 2 hours are my downtime. I'm going to make dinner and I'm going to watch Netflix or something. I'm going to take my dogs on a walk. And it's so important to me to have that refresh time mentally and physically, because it is a lot and you are on the go and your brain is constantly going. And if I don't give myself a break, I burn out really quickly because I am such a go-getter. So I like to cook with my husband. Since the pandemic, we've started getting the meal kits delivered to our house. And we love to sit down and cook together. We've gotten into a few Netflix binge-worthy series. We like The Crown. I like Downton Abbey. We like to take our dogs on a walk. There's a great park down the street from us, the Deming, in Terre Haute, Indiana, and we've walked around that park several times. It's nice to get out, get away from the computer, get unplugged. Don't look at Facebook. Don't look at your email. Enjoy nature. Enjoy your family. Enjoy. We don't have kids, but we have fur babies. We have fur kids. So.
Well, I got to ask though, with the cooking. So, what have you and your husband discovered during this time? What's a favorite recipe? Something new, something different that you've been able to create in the kitchen?
We stumbled upon a recipe because we were kind of out of ingredients. We enjoy Italian food, and so pasta is a big part of our diet, unfortunately, as bad as that is. And we wanted to make Parmesan crusted chicken one night, and I had cornflakes in the cupboard, and I looked up a Parmesan crusted chicken recipe using cornflakes, where you crush up the cornflakes and you put Parmesan cheese and all the herbs and everything in it. And it turned out great. It's like one of our favorite recipes that we like to do now.
Oh, I like that. Ingenuity with
Yes.
what you have to work with, kind of a lesson that can apply more broadly. So, Sammy, we've talked about your playing, and certainly you whether you're doing that with the symphony, Philharmonic, quartet, other opportunities, you've played for so many years. I'm curious, as someone with slim and none as far as musical talent, in your position, how much do you practice outside of those playing? How much does it take still for you after all the years of experience you've had?
It takes at least an hour a day, and that's simply for muscle retainment in my embouchure. It's like a runner or any other athlete. If you don't work the muscle, it's going to die or it's going to go away. So it's really important for me to at least play a little bit every day. I may not always get that hour depending on how exhausted I am mentally. But in college, you're practicing 4 to 6 hours a day, usually a couple in the morning and some in the afternoon. I can't do that anymore. But as you mature as a player, you don't need that as much. My practice sessions are very methodical, and I'm constantly thinking, listening to myself and, understanding, oh, my sound doesn't sound right. I need to change my oral cavity, or my throat is too open or it's too closed. I'm teaching myself. I'm my own best teacher, is what my Butler University professor Achille Rossi used to say. You are your own best teacher, and it's really important to hear what you're doing and make adjustments immediately in your practice session, especially when you don't have time. I don't have 3 hours to practice anymore. I have 45 minutes to an hour, and I need to get something done. I need to learn a piece. I need to fix my reads. I need to do, I have a goal for each practice session of what I do.
Yeah, that what you just talked about, the listening, there's another lesson that applies broadly in business. I think most people could benefit from those enhanced listening skills, whether it's in the boardroom or the manufacturing floor or wherever you might be.
It is, absolutely. And that's one skill that you learn as an operational excellence person, because you have to listen to folks who own the process, understand the issues. You can't walk in there and tell them, well, this is how you need to do it. And it's been a very valuable skill that I have learned from the business aspect that's playing into what I do with Terre Haute. Absolutely.
Sammy, you've talked about your career path and making decisions, that positively impact where you want to be. And I think I'm pretty sure, confident in hear you talk, that you're exactly where you want to be now. May not be a fair question, but where may that lead in 5-10 years? What are some things you anticipate you might be able to or want to do as your career continues?
Well, the reason I got into this arts administration path was because I recognized that I had these skills that I had learned from Catalent, Cook Pharmica, where I could help make orchestras better. I could continue improving an orchestra's footprint in a community. And I'm, like you said, I'm exactly where I want to be now, but I do want to continue into, a bigger city or a larger orchestra. And I may not be the executive director of that particular ensemble, but I love the marketing aspect. Would certainly be happy in a marketing position. I also like the community engagement aspect of it and the educational outreach. So I could absolutely see myself in a larger organization or larger orchestra doing marketing, community engagement, fundraising, any number of positions.
Excellent. We last question. We've covered a broad range of things. Obviously, we've made it clear you have many exciting things going on. Asking this of everyone this year's season of the In Chamber. But as you think about it, at the end of the day, maybe or during that downtime that you've scheduled, what's been a great day for Samantha Johnson-Helms as you look back at the end of the day? What has helped make it a great day?
If I can accomplish 2 to 3 goals, whether that's finishing a letter that we're going to send to our season ticket holders, or creating a social media campaign, or capturing a sponsor for a concert, I would say that's a great day. If I can do at least accomplish 2 goals in a day, I try not to put too much pressure on myself because, we're only human. I would come home and I would probably have some wine with my dinner to celebrate just a little bit.
Well, it goes naturally with those pasta dishes.
Absolutely.
That you're making. Okay, I'm going to get silly now. So cornflakes are part of the recipe. Is there a specific wine that goes with the cornflake recipe, or am I going totally off base here?
I can't say I am a wine connoisseur by any means. My time spending in Bloomington, and my husband's from Bloomington, we're huge Oliver Winery fans. And so we enjoy the Gewürztraminer, we enjoy the Moscato, but we also like, I think they have a soft red that they do as well. The older I have gotten, though, I am definitely getting away from the sweeter wines. And I do prefer more of a red or a semi-sweet wine with pasta, absolutely.
There we go. Well, Samantha Johnson-Helms, Sammy, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to, as I'm sure you and all the performers do, to our return to normal, where you're able to perform, the concerts as typical, and bring that joy of music to broad audiences in Terre Haute and beyond.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Love the conversation. Before we wrap up here, just want to mention in November where we'll bring you twice the number of podcasts. We'll have 4 episodes. We're going to sit down with all of the Indiana Chamber's 31st annual award winners. So we'll be bringing you 4 separate episodes between November 11th and 24th. We think it's an opportunity to go behind the scenes with those winners. The winners will be unveiled the day before the podcast series starts. November 10th is the virtual event. Again, where we recognize those award winners as well as other longtime chamber members. The Chamber's Board of Directors and annual membership meeting takes place on November 12th. And one more event, the annual legislative preview, looking ahead to the 2021 Indiana General Assembly session. That takes place on November 16th. So we're winding towards the end of a crazy 2020, but also a busy year and a busy month coming up for chamber events. Thank you as always for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks, or as we say, in November, with that series of episodes on the In Chamber. Thanks as always for listening.